This episode of Marijuana Today Daily is brought to you by our friends over at Curaleaf, one of the nation's leading providers of adult use and medical marijuana products, with 93 local dispensaries, 22 cultivation sites, and 30 processing facilities, all serving up more than 350,000 registered patients and customers in 23 operating states. Learn more about all the good work done by everyone over at Curaleaf at their website, curaleaf.com, with Curaleaf spelled Curaleaf. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Wednesday, October 21st, 2020, and you're tuned in to episode 994 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. Kyle Yeager over at Marijuana Moment gets our news day started with a pickup of comments made by Democratic vice presidential nominee Kamala Harris, pledging that marijuana decriminalization and the expungement of past cannabis charges would be something that a Biden-Harris administration would tackle, should she and Joe Biden be elected. And assuming that the loser dumpster fire Trump doesn't somehow hijack the entire nation when he loses. Senator Harris made the comments pledging to embrace decriminalization and expungement while speaking with the program The Griot, which you can and should watch over at Kyle's story at Marijuana Moment. As we always do, we have all the news we cover linked to on our website at mjtodaydaily.com. Big congratulations to my friend Ryan Bessor, founder of the Redemption Cannabis Foundation, a Michigan-based nonprofit dedicated to advancing restorative justice for people with cannabis crimes on their records, for teaming up on a very cool project with the Last Prisoner Project, a national organization with the goal of advancing criminal justice reform for marijuana offenders. The new coalition has already raised $30,000 in funding that will be used to try to free people like Michael Thompson, a 68-year-old man currently serving a 60-year jail term in Michigan for selling marijuana to an undercover police officer back in 1994. We've covered Mr. Thompson's story here a number of times on the Daily. As our industry continues to advance in developing the business side of legal cannabis, we cannot forget the fact that there are still way too many people sitting in prison right now for things that some of us are getting rich doing on the legal market. If you're making $1 in legal cannabis, it's incumbent upon you to care about social justice and to do whatever you can to get everyone home from jail. Our final top story in the day swings us out to Massachusetts, where the state's Cannabis Control Board made the decision to limit delivery businesses to holding just 2 delivery licenses. Massachusetts is creating 2 classes of cannabis delivery licenses, one that lets drivers simply make deliveries for existing dispensaries, which are designated as cannabis couriers, and another license type that lets operators run as full-scale businesses, where they can purchase wholesale cannabis products for repackaging under their own brands. That more involved type would require more work and capital, but would also allow owners to capture more of the upside of each sale. As it was decided yesterday, delivery businesses can have 2 delivery licenses, either 2 of one type or 1 of each. The state is also limiting delivery businesses for the first 3 years to social equity program participants. The Cannabis Control Commission will meet next on October 29th to cast a final vote on the plan. Those are the top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz out in headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, Curaleaf, one of the nation's leading providers of adult use and medical marijuana products, with 93 local dispensaries, 22 cultivation sites, and 30 processing facilities, all serving up more than 350,000 registered patients and customers in 23 operating states. One of the benefits of being a vertically integrated company is that Curaleaf has had the time and space to build up expertise in the entire cannabis supply and production chain. When you purchase a Curaleaf medical or adult use product, you can rest easy knowing that it was under the care and gentle touch of a lot of very knowledgeable and well-educated growers and processors. When you control the entire production flow, you can make sure that every step of the process is done right. That's what they do at Curaleaf in every way that it does business. Learn more about the good things done by the good folks over at Curaleaf at their website, found at curaleaf.com, with Curaleaf spelled Curaleaf. Big thanks to everyone at Curaleaf for the support that makes today's news possible. All right, time for the Blitz. Andrew Long over Marijuana Business Daily is a great piece up looking at how the number of brands and products have changed within the legal cannabis markets of Colorado and Washington state, the two oldest and most developed legal markets in the nation. As Andrew's charts show, the total number of brands and products on dispensary shelves is either on the decline or starting to level off, which would suggest that the industry is starting to see some kind of maturity. The chart nicely pulls out the total number of products per brand in the two states, with both on the downward slope to around 37, down from a high of around 40 in Colorado and 60 in Washington state. Not a bad one to add to your list of stories to read in full today. Kyle Yeager grabs another story on the day, this time looking at a new proposed coronavirus relief bill just introduced into the U.S. Senate by Democratic legislators that includes language from the Secure and Fair Enforcement Banking Act, or SAFE Act, which would remove restrictions on banks on working with legal cannabis businesses. But as anyone who is following national politics knows, this bill has zero chance of passing. For one, the bill was introduced by Democrats into the Senate, which is controlled and locked down by Senator Mitch McConnell, who is one of the worst people ever, and who has turned the Senate into the graveyard where bills that don't cut taxes for rich people go to die. Another thing that dooms the bill is the reticence that Republicans are showing in helping the nation out in the wake of Chucklefuck Trump's disastrous pandemic response. The Republican Party is the party of pain and suffering, and they're determined to play out their role here. Multi-state cannabis operator 4Front just announced a new issuance of stock that will raise just over $11 million in funding through the public sale of a touch more than 21 million units. I should probably drop a disclosure on this one, as 4Front's president and co-founder Chris Crane is a host and regular on our weekly show, Marijuana Today. Another cannabis company also announced a new funding deal yesterday, with Neptune Wellness Solutions, Inc. raising $35 million in funding through the private placement of 16 million shares and another 10 million warrants to buy just as many more shares. You can dive into more details on this one if you need it over at New Cannabis Ventures. A new report and economic analysis generated by the folks over at Vicente Cederberg are projecting that the state of Texas could have a legal cannabis industry worth as much as $2.7 billion a year, if only it were to legalize marijuana. Under the projections of the report, if Texas taxed cannabis sales similar to how Colorado handles things, it could pull in north of $1 billion in taxes and fees annually, while also creating 20,000 to 40,000 new jobs. So, yeah, Texas, get on that. Pop over to Marijuana Moment to scan the full report yourself. We have yet another poll showing very strong support for legal adult use marijuana in New Jersey. I think this is the third we've seen in the past week or so. This poll, conducted by the law firm Brock Eichler LLC, finds that 65% of respondents say they plan to vote for the adult use ballot measure going before New Jersey voters in less than 2 weeks. That's against just 29% who are opposed. Things are looking pretty good in the Garden State, though, of course, nothing is done until the votes are in and counted, so keep up the pressure everywhere. Our final story in the day has a slight dash of schadenfreude, as Chris Roberts over at Forbes details the fall of the company Ignite International, which sells CBD and THC products, and that's led up by the just awful Dan Blazarian, a social media jackass and conman who has burned through millions of dollars inherited by his father over the years, pursuing a bullshit Playboy lifestyle. According to Chris's reporting, Blazarian's company Ignite has also burned through a lot of cash, losing $67 million last year, on top of heaps of millions also lost this year, backed by near non-existent sales. The company went public last year via a reverse takeover, and its stock is not handling all the bad news well, trading around 33 cents a share as of publication time, down from a high of around $2.50. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again tomorrow morning with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Thanks to our sponsor, Curaleaf, and to our awesome patron listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the patron listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says, Become a Patron. I'm your host, Jay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in and starting your day with marijuana today. Today.
One take, Shay. One take.